Hello, good morning everyone. First of all, I would like to Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the day 2 of BNB Chain Malaysia Get Connected 2022 amazing event. And we are live at none other than Genting International Convention Center, GICC Malaysia. Let us give a round of applause to start our day 2 BNB Chain Malaysia Get Connected event. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for the warm welcome, and as always, my name is Aldo, your dearest MC. But before I continue, seems like I need to test your energy in this beautiful morning first. Can I? Yeah. Good, okay. So next, when I say good morning, I want every one of you say good morning, yes, 3 times. Is it possible? Is it a yes or is it a no? Okay, let us try. First, okay? Good morning, everyone. Yes. No. So the cue is good morning, and all of you shout out good morning, yes. So you start with good morning first, then yes. Okay? Is it clear? Okay, very good. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the energy. And so today we have arrived at our last day of this incredible event. So ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of BNB Chain Malaysia Get Connected 2022 event, I would like to say thank you very much for your energy and your presence on today's day 2 session. Let us give it up once again for all of us, shall we? Thank you very much. And in this opportunity, I would also like to apologize for a starting time delay due to some technical problem. And so before I start, I would also like to remind you 3 valuable advice as I said yesterday, okay? So the first one is please use the break time and lunch time. Oh, remember today we have a lunch. And some of you might ask why. Remember, you have come here a long way, and you have invested your time, your money, your energy here. So please, instead of listening to our amazing speaker, maybe you're eating, maybe you're having a phone call. So please, just sit down and hear our amazing speakers, okay? For the second one is, please don't be shy to introduce yourself to your friend or strangers next to you, because he or she might be your future business partner. Remember, today is your last chance and today is your last day, okay? And the third one is, please take a note. And I have one additional advice is, please come back in time. If you appreciate our event and speakers, because as yesterday's event for our break time, it is a bit hard to welcome all of you back in. So please, if it is possible, please come back in time. I really do appreciate it. Is it okay? Is it okay? Thank you very much. Okay, and in this opportunity, I also would like to give a shout out to our amazing supporting partners that have supported our incredible event. And now, for our supporting partners, we have, for our main sponsors, we have SANGKARA MISA. For our platinum sponsors, we have ARC36. For the gold sponsors, we have Apedi, Pamor Studio, UpDefi, Mars Ecosystem, Bad Fury, Evo Surfers. And for our silver sponsors, we have BIMB, Bantaya Hall, Batik Semar, NFT Batik Indonesia, Sankara NFT. And for event partners, we have Blocklime, Access Blockchain Association, BIMB. And for our featured participants, we have Mars Ecosystem, Fyro, NodeReal, Pentas.io, MX Global, Ape Labs. And just a short brief here. Today, our event will be shorter than yesterday. And we will be having a lunch together at the end of our event. And the location will be as the same as yesterday. So for every participant that can't find where the lunch location is, please kindly reach out to me or maybe an unanswered question from yesterday For that, our committee has created a platform for all of you to post a question that will be answered. So please don't hesitate to type in your question here. And this is how you can ask. So committee, can I have the QR code here? For the Slido, okay. So we will be waiting for a few seconds. Okay then, for the QR code, we will display it on our screen in a few sessions next. And then now, we will get right into our main event without wasting any more time. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome and meet the President of Access Malaysia Blockchain Association, Mr. Harpreet Singh Man, that will give a welcoming speech. And now, let us give the loudest applause to welcome him in. Thank you.
All right. Oh, so I'm actually surprised to see all of you actually made it, right? After all the parties last night. So this is definitely, and the energy levels are great, guys. Like, looking at all you guys actually managed to come up in the morning and managed to network and all of those. So I'll try to keep this light as possible. Do I have my slides though? I don't have a clicker or anything. How we do that? How are we going to do that? Okay, so you're going to run it. Okay, awesome. The slides are here. So I'll just quickly run through. So the topic that was proposed to me was, what is the role of associations in building the Malaysian blockchain ecosystem? So we basically decided to, there's multiple other blockchain associations and communities and ecosystems in this space as well. But I wanted to put it through the lens of access and how are we trying to make a difference in this space. Okay, so next slides, please. So a bit, I won't bore you a lot with it, but just give you a bit of background to this. So we have founded since 2017. The founding member, of course, I think you might have heard of Matthew Tan. Etherscan is just the biggest blockchain explorer in the world, right? And they have 27 different products, and in a way, a pride of Malaysia, right? Build here, a very small group of people decided to build explorers and kind of really grow out and become one of the biggest and the most well-known explorers out there in the world. Etherscan, then we have Colbert, we have Suraya, we have Anson, and Effendi and Nas being some of our founding members since 2017. So just give you a bit of oversight why we actually even exist in the first place. So when the ecosystem was actually growing up, we basically noticed that there was no common voice of the industry, right? And back in 2017, Bank Negara Malaysia proposed to ban cryptocurrencies. So there was a big blow to the industry and everybody who actually really enjoyed it, and wanted to participate and build things in the space that now the government was thinking of banning cryptocurrency. And we felt that industry should come together and actually go up and voice out our opinions on how can we work together with regulations. So that was the first approach and the first reason why Access was formed. And Access is actually, we decided to partner with Access Singapore. If you go and research the whole acronym, it's actually Association of Cryptocurrencies, blah, 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 Singapore. Okay? That's where the word access came in from. And we decided to create a sister association here in Malaysia to actually learn from what was being done in Singapore, where Access Singapore was really well working with MAS and working on building some regulation, and they already did a lot of goodwill and good work. We decided to learn from them and create a sister association here. So just to put a simple description, we are a non-profit advocacy group aimed to drive and grow the blockchain ecosystem in Malaysia. We are not aligned, we are not focused on any specific chain or protocol, or we are not Maxis or in any other corners, right? Our idea is to be non-aligned, focus on the ecosystem, develop it, and try to solve the problems of the ecosystem. Okay, next slide, please. So these are some of the challenges that we notice that we have to address. There's not, there's lack of empowering policies, and there's not enough clarity on policies as well, right? If you really look into Malaysia, every single time I get this question, is blockchain legal in Malaysia, right? Blockchain, yeah, not crypto yet. then people are like, hey, crypto kan, like, illegal kan, right? So I get that question a lot. There's still a lot of unclear policies, like unclear, there's lack of awareness in the space on, like what are the rules and regulations, and even what are the industries and like new types of business models that are actually emerging in this space. And what can you even do with blockchain? So the question of what is blockchain has not yet been answered. What you can do with it is a far away question, I would say, right? Then education. Then we felt that there's not enough people who's able to educate in this space. So we started to like notice that is a key area we would want to target on. Talent, diversity is some of the issues that we felt that as the ecosystem was growing, it was becoming imbalanced. So we felt that is something that we want to tackle as well. And collaboration in the ecosystem. So I've traveled a lot in the past few years. So my work, because going out onto conferences, meeting people, and I noticed like the ecosystems around Southeast Asia, they were becoming siloed, right? There are many companies, let's say if you go in Vietnam, they don't work with each other. They don't even talk with each other. They don't even know each other. They just work in their own group of silos. You go in Philippines, you will get the same concept. You go in Thailand, you get the same concept, right? I felt that Malaysia should not do that. We felt that we need to have a more collaborative ecosystem. We go up, we reach out, we work with everybody, and see how we can complement each other, because we are a very small industry yet. So that is something that we want to foster as well. Next slide, please. So I try to quickly go through this. Don't want to bore you guys with all these boring slides. Moving, coming towards Malaysia needs clarity on crypto policies. So that's what we try to address. Next slide. So from 2017, from the question of banning cryptocurrencies to actually working on a whole digital asset exchange guidelines, we were involved, we were consulting, we were actually trying to work with the industry. We went with like multiple meetings with SE. We actually argued on multiple things that things shouldn't work, right? So we had like a round table of what they call committee, because a lot of these things was like not really public. So we actually just were working at the back with the regulators to make sure the right policies are in place. And even now, even after these policies are introduced, we are giving back feedbacks on things that we do not agree with, or like the things that we feel is actually hindering development in the industry. So we're trying to focus on those type of engagements as well. Next. And then you can see there's actually few more policies that's been developed in Malaysia. So people feel like, hey, can you legally buy Bitcoin in Malaysia? Yes, you can. We actually have, please, one slide back. Yes, yeah, okay, awesome, leave it here. Yeah, so in this case, we actually have digital asset exchange guidelines available. We have 4 approved DEXs, and then we have more than 1 million accounts registered on those. I think the number is way more now. Not having the recent data, but overall I think the number has like gone up so much more. But overall I feel that we already have the avenue of buying cryptocurrency legally in Malaysia, and we have a legal DEX industry that's actually emerging, and we also have institutional account support now. So in this case, if any companies want to go up and open crypto accounts, there are actually few exchanges that's already supporting it. And then even the whole overall TVL in those exchanges has also grew multiple-fold over the past 2 years. And then we also have initial exchange offering. So if you want to issue tokens or like coins to actually fundraise, there is already a guidelines available. It's already been issued, and operators has been announced as well. There's 2 of them, Capital DX and Pitchin, right? So they're actually currently building their platform. In few more months, you'll be able to actually legally raise money in Malaysia using cryptocurrency. So it actually took a lot of effort, a lot of engagement to go up and make sure this happens. And we actually even argued, there's many other guidelines that was coming up there that didn't show up. We actually had crypto wallet regulations that was about to be introduced that we really fight off and say, we don't need this will hinder innovation. It didn't came. And digital asset custodian is still a guideline that's in force, and it's actually still open for application. If any banks or institutions or service providers want to actually go and apply, it's still open. Next. So we also, not only doing it on the local level, we felt that we have to participate to make real change in the global level as well. So we are part of IDAXA, which is an international digital asset exchange association. So it's an association of associations. So we are basically everywhere from Indonesia. We have Asosiasi Blockchain Indonesia, and all around the world, we have a global group of associations sitting down together, working all the way with FATF and global regulators, making sure that they don't come out with regulations that hinder innovation and actually, at the same time, allow our ecosystems not to grow, right? So we actually reach out and we have annual conferences where we talk to all these global regulators, ensuring that, yeah. Okay, this is much better, so I can control this now. Okay, so in this case, so we can work with them on the global level, making sure that we have right regulations in place. So quickly, going through everywhere from making, letting them know that Bitcoin is not a scam, to, regulating those assets, to IEO, then figuring out blockchain is not Bitcoin, because a lot of regulators, government agencies, they still think Bitcoin is blockchain, blockchain is Bitcoin, trying to make sure there's a distinction. And we worked on multiple events over the years. This is a very long slide, but basically we have trying to cater everything from the grassroots to the beginner level to intermediate understanding to developer-focused events and even blockchain fundamental activities is being organized. And we have structured it over the years, ensuring that nobody's left behind. So now, we noticed that we have to grow into different regions because all our activities is in KL. We are doing roadshows across the country, making sure that we have activities happening in different states. And then we noticed that we were very English-centric content. So we said, let's start doing more stuff in Bahasa and ensuring that that community is also involved in all those progress that happen in space. And then we basically broke up into, this is like one of our structures of events and activities that we do. And we noticed that there's not enough talent, and I felt that creating university courses is going to be a lengthy process, and it's a bit challenging to get there. We decided to go up and start building blockchain clubs. So 1 year ago, we started with this idea, let's build a blockchain club, and we worked out an arrangement with a university, and today we are 500 strong. And actually, a lot of the students were here yesterday. You might have seen them. They actually come in and participate in all those events and activities, and they learn. And now they're actually being interning in crypto companies, and at the same time, they're also getting hired in crypto companies here in Malaysia, bringing back talent into the ecosystem, right? We educate. Over the years, we have done a lot of talks. I have personally trained more than 3,000 developers in this space. Thank you, right? And we felt that we need to do more of that. So we're going to be organizing more hackathons in Malaysia. Lack of diversity, we felt that that's something we're going to tackle as well. So we do a lot of women participation. We do activities where we actually start to bring all the women leaders in Web3, and we host meetups, and we actually also supporting, we have one event that is being done by women who code, and we are supporting it to make sure that more people participate in that, right? And then Then in terms of collaboration, we felt that everybody should know each other. And I think the best way of building, doing team building is playing sports. So we started doing badminton nights, we started doing futsal nights, we started, even some people, they don't do sports, they're like, we got to play Dota or something. We started even doing sports and esports as well, right? So even those kind of activities is being done. Then we felt there's not enough global collaboration. We've been everywhere from Denver, Amsterdam, now my team is in New York. Basically working with all the global players, making sure that we can bring back this technology, this talent, these ecosystems, these sponsors, this whole ecosystem has to be connected. So we have all these activities with all these global partners, okay? Connecting over the years, we have done, I think, hundreds to thousands of events. We have hundreds of events this year. Please come in and support us. And these are some of our past activities. We have among the best speakers in DeFi. We did DeFi week before somebody did it. We did NFT week, among the earliest people to do NFT week and talk about it here. Enterprise week, nobody was talking about enterprise blockchain. We had to clarify that these things exist in the space. It's not just Ethereum in the space as well. If any enterprise want to go up and look into enterprise solution, that is an option for them. And at the same time, developers, we felt that going towards the mantra of the Microsoft CEO, that we need to be focusing on developers to ensure that Malaysia can be focusing on building high-value products and services and becoming one of the leaders. Because we can see that Malaysia, not only Malaysia, the whole Southeast Asian region has really good talent, but we were not able to tap into this ecosystem, so we felt that we need to do more. So we did everything from regional activities to the local activities, and we do support, and we do have partners all across this region supporting each other. Okay, so something everybody can do here. So if you have anything in policy development, we are trying to do something on mining. If you're doing a mining company, we have some mining policies, mining company policies that we're working on. We're working on education and talent. If you're working on events, let us know how we can support. And these are things that we can all work together. Just a bit of history. These are like some of our past presidents. We actually have an annual AGM. So if you don't like me, you can what they call outvote me next year. Right? If you're a member, you get the voting rights to ensuring to basically kind of go up and vote and choose your next leader and your next committee. And this is some of our committee members. Since I'm running out of time, I'm going to be skipping this. And we actually just wanted to tell you that we actually have all verticals, that we actually everything from partnerships to community building to NFT, metaverses, mining. We actually been in all those areas, and now we're even branching out to different states, ensuring that we do not leave the other communities behind. So this is some of our structures, and Wagme. Thank you, everybody.
Wow, thank you very much, Mr. Harpreet Singh Man, such an amazing welcoming speech. Coming up next, an astounding session that's going to be talking about is institutional blockchain adoption still in the early stages. And now let us give it up to the CEO of BNB, Mr. George Lee.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is George Lee. I'm the CEO of BNB Blockchain. My topic for today is institutional adoption of blockchain still in early stages. It has been given to me. I think it's very much relevant to my company, which does project acceleration for crypto projects and also token projects. Institutional adoption of blockchain is a very important progress for us to notice, especially for marketing experts, because we need to be able to identify what are the demands of the market at the moment and how can we best suit the demand by accelerating the projects in our hand to do so. Now, before I begin presenting the content, I would like to quote Bob Lewis, a US singer, which says, a new technology comes with 3 phases: hype, disillusionment, and application. Normally, new technologies come with a hype, just like BTC in 2017 and also last year, and also other tokens, which has been hyped a lot. In fact, it is quite amazing that the cryptocurrency has been hyped so much for 2 times, and I think it will happen again in 3 years. Basically, 1 year after the halving, you will have a lot of hype associated with the prices of cryptocurrencies. So that's a hype. And then we have disillusionment. I think the good example is the dot-com bubble. I better stand here so you can see the slide. But the slide's over here, didn't mind. Okay, I stand here. I think the great example of disillusionment is dot-com bubble in the 1990s, whereby people start wondering where would the technology go? Would it die off after the stock crash in the US market? And afterwards, we do have application. In fact, if the technology is really useful, we will find ways to apply them in our real life. And that is what happened to the internet. So in this graph, we can see what is a technology life cycle that has happened to, I would say, every single new piece of technology that is life-changing for human beings. Now, the blockchain is already here. We have a lot of agencies, even in Malaysia itself, which has been adopting blockchain technology in their applications. The famous one will be right in your phone, the MySejahtera, which is the most popular app among Malaysians for the past 2 years. Today is not so popular, but it was for the past 2 years. In fact, all the identities of Malaysians, along with their vaccination information, have been recorded in MySejahtera app through blockchain technology. And we also have public hospitals and the government assigned technology company MyEG actively exploring the application of blockchain in different sectors of the government. So the blockchain is already here today, but the question that we try to resolve in my presentation is whether blockchain technology is still in the early stages, whether there are still spaces for progress to be made to make sure that blockchain technology becomes more popular and we can maximize its utility in our life. Now, before we provide a direct answer to a rather direct question, I think it is important for us to understand the background of how blockchain can contribute to our society, to the government of the country, or to corporations within the economy. For me, I think there are 3 hallmarks of blockchain technology. First is the indestructibility, second is efficiency, and thirdly will be transparency. These 3 will revolutionize the things that we do every single day. And this is the real utility of blockchain. Aside from increasing token prices and making money out of investments, I think what we should realign in terms of our focus and emphasis will be how blockchain can apply to our life through 3 of these hallmarks. Let's talk about how can blockchain contribute in terms of data storage and manipulation of data. Because blockchain is an open ledger, all the information will be stored in a copy for each and every single node. Node is a validator of the blockchain. So which means if you store a piece of data in the blockchain, it will be distributed across a network of different nodes, having the exact same copies of the data. If one piece of the data gets changed, that will trigger a decision to be made, whether that particular change is something that is valid or invalid. And that requires 51% of the network to verify that that particular change is valid. It will be hard to achieve, because if statistically speaking, from the experience, manipulation is only done by in fact, theoretically speaking, manipulation is done by a small group of people in order to perpetuate their self-interest in the network. So if you have the entire network devoted to vote on any particular change, that particular change must be beneficial to the network. Blockchain technology can do that because for any changes to be made, you will need to achieve a consensus among the network nodes. Secondly, because they are duplicates of the data across the network, you actually cannot destroy the data per se, because every single node has a copy of the data. So the problem that can be resolved here, in my view, will be purposeful manipulation of data. Nobody can manipulate the data in their favor. Second is destruction. It is anti-destruction, because exact copies of data is being stored in different nodes. So we cannot destroy the data. If you destroy a particular set of data owned by a node, then you can recover the data from other nodes. And then, of course, untruthful reporting, because each and every single piece of corporate information or government information, before they are being released, then it will be verified first through the blockchain network. I think this has a great application in our society because our news media and social media, they are filled with falsehoods actually. If you are in the marketing agency, you will find out money can actually do a lot of things in the media. If you pay a lot, you can actually disseminate falsehoods. A falsehood in media is truth until it is being challenged actually. It will be published first until somebody challenges it. Then we will resolve the problem in the court later. Yeah. But with this, we skip that process and we can ensure that all the data being reported and being presented are truthful and without fraud. Yep. Of course, second hallmark of blockchain will be efficiency. Blockchain is efficient in the sense that it removes middlemen. We do not want a lot of middlemen in business transactions. In particular, in commerce, middlemen is a cost, actually, for business. If we have a lot of middlemen, which means things become more expensive for us. But for blockchain, we have already seen the application of transfer of funds from one place to another, e-payment system using blockchain that requires little or no middleman. In that case, there will be no charge for the transaction, or if there is charge, it will be the network charge. Everybody, I think here, they have been using TRC20 before. They used TRC20 to transfer USDT before. I think everybody has bought crypto here before. And you understand that TRC20 only charged 1 USDT per transaction. In my research last time, I get to know that if you do a SWIFT transfer, in terms of telegraphic transfer, you actually incur 10 to 15% of net costs in terms of conversion rate and the middleman charges of the agencies, the central bank, and the bank itself. You incur 10 to 15% of your transaction costs. That is extremely expensive. Actually. And for a business, I think that's a cost. Blockchain can help to solve this problem, and it has been proven to us, the removal of middlemen. Of course, the removal of middlemen is not only restricted to electronic payments. It can also be for other stuff, such as licensing, resource wastage. Now, in terms of licensing, because the network is self-sustainable, the validators, they can actually look through the requirements before a license is being issued. This is what we call electronic government. Now, it skips through a lot of middleman process, which is the main catalyst for corruption. If you have humans, there will be corruption in the government. You pay them, things get faster in the procedure to apply for a license, for example. If that process can be replaced by a blockchain, then the whole process will become more seamless and streamlined, and the corruption can be minimized if you consider corruption as a cost, which I think it is. If you do not pay certain agents, certain officials of the government, certain amount of money, then your things could not get through very fast. I think that is a known fact, not only in developing countries, but also in developed countries. And the next one will be transparency. Now, in terms of transparency, we talk about purposeful manipulation of data. Okay, now if you can see in the illustration here, this is long time ago, the election between Barack Obama and John McCain. And you notice if the hand pressed on Barack Obama, it's actually voted for John McCain. So this is a manipulation of votes, actually. I think the main problem of that is because this particular e-voting service is provided by a hardware, and a hardware can be corrupted, actually, by humans. But if you could distribute this particular decision to a network of nodes of trustworthy people, or the people themselves in the election, there will not be such thing. You may have an element of corruption in the network. Some network nodes may approve something which is not truthful, but pulling together the consensus mechanism, you can have majority of the nodes agreeing on a decision that is acceptable by the most people. In that, people will regard the decision as more truthful. Wouldn't be 100%, but more truthful. And in certain cases, we can actually achieve 100% accuracy. So I think the transparency hallmark can actually help us to remove certain systemic fraud, not only in government, but also in corporations. We just have to distribute the decision-making to a network of nodes in the blockchain. And the validators, we will pre-select them based on trustworthiness. Then we will be able to resolve that particular issue. So there are 6 benefits to take away from my presentations. The blockchain technology will be able to provide 6 main benefits to both commerce and e-government. The first is to save resources. The resources will be saved. It will not be lost too much. There will be leakages. In fact, it's unavoidable. A blockchain network can also collapse. We can also have seen in the past 1 month, a certain major blockchain network has collapsed dramatically. That can happen, but it is quite rare. And during the process, you have already saved many resources. And we can remove a lot of undesired conflicts because validation is done for the transaction to go through, especially in terms of e-payment. We can restore integrity of a system, of a government or corporation. We are able to remove corruption from the government. Okay, removal of corruption or minimization of corruption. We also reduce conflict. In fact, I would say, as a lawyer myself, the court expenses, legal expenses in this country is way overboard. It's very, very expensive to access the court, to access the lawyers. That's why many of the lawyers are actually quite wealthy individuals, because we have a lot of conflicts. Lawyers love conflicts. If we have a conflict, we love them, because we can profit from it. But in terms of constructivism, talking about being constructive, lawyers are not constructive people in economy, because they only resolve conflicts. They do not contribute anything to the economy. If you have a conflict, they come and solve your problem, and you pay for it. That's about it. Do they build any buildings, ecosystems, tokens, projects? There's nothing there. They only help you to resolve your problem. So please, have more problems. It will be good for lawyers, actually. But blockchain is there to resolve this problem. I consider that as a problem, even though I'm a lawyer myself. Okay, and then of course, supplemental to all this tangible benefit, we also have projects being able to augment their commercial popularity. Because one of the beauty of blockchain tech is that we'll be able to tokenize your business, and the public will be more informed about what your business models are and what do you do, and at the same time, you'll be able to raise funds using that token. And actually, my company is helping people to do that. We help to accelerate the popularity and the outreach of crypto or blockchain projects. Of course, we pre-select them. If they are of good utility, we actually help them to accelerate in different regions of the world. In fact, my company itself has a vision. After being a successful accelerator, we actually plan to begin a project ourselves. We would like to reform international norm and essential standards in terms of electronic payment. If you have any question, you can consult BNB. The process is relatively simple. You can have a white paper, and you integrate blockchain into your business, and you tokenize your business. That is our 3-step process that we will help you through. So in response to the direct question of whether institutional adoption of blockchain is still in the early stages, I would say, look around you. If there are still problems in regards to validation, in regards to leakages, high business costs, and unnecessary conflicts, then I would say it is still in the early stages, because blockchain can do so much more for government, commerce, economy, and business. Thank you very much.
Such an amazing session. Thank you once again, Mr. Josh, as the CEO of BNB. Next up, we're going to hear more about GameFi as the people's choice to work and get financially stable. That's going to be brought by the founder of Nusantara Gaming Guild. And now let us give it up to Mr. William Atmodiharjo.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is William Atmodiharjo. I'm the CEO and founder of Nusantara Gaming Guild. We are a gaming guild that is focused on Indonesia. And today, I'm going to talk about GameFi as a choice of work and to become financially stable. So what is GameFi? GameFi is game plus finance. So GameFi allows the streamlining of game assets to a free market and real-world money. So what this means is that all the players, all the people that are involved in that project, they are able to freely transfer their assets into other assets that other player owns, and also to real-world money through exchanges. And then, why do we need GameFi? What is the difference between GameFi and traditional games? So, in traditional games, right, we only rent our assets. We don't truly own our assets. Why is that? You might argue that we buy those assets straight to the game developer, right? You pay your money to them and you got your assets in-game. So let me tell you why. First is that the safety of your assets are at the mercy of the developers. So let's say at any time, the developers might decide to wipe out the server or to terminate the game. Then all your assets are gone. You cannot access it anymore. And then next one is that most games won't allow you to transfer your assets to other players. It is only confined to your account. And then for those games that allows it, it will be quite difficult for you to exchange your assets to real-world value, to sell it to other players. It is done through mainly middleman services for their trust between players, and also a lot of games will ban you if you get caught in doing that. So that's what GameFi tries to solve within that space, right? So with GameFi, with the help of blockchain, you can have true ownership of your assets, of your game assets. And then those assets are immutable, and you have undisputed ownership of the assets through the blockchain technology. And also, those assets are freely transferable. You can freely transfer it in exchanges, through marketplace or peer-to-peer to other players and other users of the game. And also, it's very easy to transact those assets, especially the tokens, into real-world money through exchanges. So there are a few different lines of works in GameFi, and there are 5 of them. First, the game developer, and then investor, as a gaming guild, as a project employees, and as gamers. So when you see this slide from the gamers to game developers, there is a higher financial risk and higher potential rewards as the list goes up. So what does this mean, right? For gamers and project employers, you need only to pour out a minimum amount of your resources, and it's most likely just your time into that project. However, you are only limited in the skill that you can bring to that project for your potential rewards. While at the other end of spectrum, for game developer, for investors, the amount of resources and usually money for investment is much more larger for each project that you need to develop. And when the project fails, then most likely your investment will disappear. Gaming Guild, we are placed nicely in the middle. I think we are the most flexible of this because we can freely jump through one project to another, and we can also limit and control the amount of investment that we give into each project, and also we can also get the quite nice sizable reward too. So I will talk for each category in detail. So the first one, as a gamer, there are 3 types of gamers: a pro player, a content creator, and a guild scholar. So pro player, these are the best players in each of the game that they're playing, right? They can earn up to thousands of dollars each month. However, they do need to be extremely talented, and they need to pour their dedication into improving their own gameplay into the games. And they can also enjoy facilities and fame, especially on more famous games. And the next one is content creators. These are your influencers, Twitter KOLs. Their job is to market and inform the audience, right? And it's not unheard of for them to earn hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially the famous ones, through their audiences. The more audience they can get, the better their earning will be. However, they do need to deliver outstanding content consistently and also have amazing personality to draw in their audience. And the last one is a guild scholar. So these are not programmers. These are just your above average gamers that are skillful in playing multiple games. And they are usually active socially in their community, usually guilds. And they can also earn up to thousands of dollars too. So you might ask, how can these above average gamers earn this amount of money without being a programmer and having an excellent talent, right? The answer lies in competitive. You see, there are a lot of games right now, GameFi projects, that implement this kind of leaderboard rewards, right? So when you do well in their monthly leaderboard rewards, you can earn a lot of money by placing well in the contents. So, for example, to the left one, oh sorry, it's your right, there's Kauai Island. You can earn up to $2,000 a month just by playing this free farming game. It's a GameFi game. And you don't need to have this special set of skills or incredible talent like a pro player to achieve that. And the best part is, each of these games, they only need around 1 or 2 hours per day to be played. So your scholars can play 4 to 5 games per day and earn thousands of dollars if they do well in this kind of games. And then next, as an enterprise. So when a gaming guild or investor or VCs, so they can buy an assets, usually tokens and NFTs, straight to GameFi developers or to the secondary market of the game. And then these token NFTs can be used to generate revenues, right? To generate revenues using the players that play them. And usually, investor and VCs, they don't have the time or the skill or the players to play those assets, even though they have the capital to buy a lot of them. So that's when they use the gaming guild services to play using their assets. So they give the gaming guilds a right to access of the assets, and the scholars of the gaming guild will play those assets to generate revenue. So where does the income come from? So first is when the price of the token and NFTs increase, then these enterprises can sell them in the open market to generate profits. And the next one is when the guild scholars, they generate revenue by playing the games using these NFT and token assets. And also, gaming guilds manages the revenue sharing between investor, guild, and scholars. And they can also extract some fees in beneficial symbiosis between these enterprises and also the gaming company. So next one is as GameFi developer, right? So as a GameFi developer company, you can generate income by, one, initial sale of assets. So when the game is in development, they can sell their initial assets, usually NFTs and tokens, like in the previous slide, to enterprises to raise some funds. And the next one is through marketplace fees. So when these assets are traded in their own marketplace, the GameFi developers can set a small percentage of tax revenues for them, usually around 4%. So when the game is active, a lot of players are trading. So that's when the GameFi developer companies can generate extra revenue from it. And then to the sales or service on in-app purchases. So let's say when a player, they wants to buy a premium currency or in-game benefits, they can buy it straight through the game developer companies. And also the last one is from token ownership. So when the project launches, usually the GameFi developer company, they set aside some amount of tokens for them themselves to be able to be sold later on for more fundings. And also, there are also a lot of jobs that are available inside a game developing company, right? There are a lot of traditional game developer jobs like programmers and also graphic designers, but there are two new unique jobs that are very important in this new GameFi space. First is that a full stack blockchain developer. So because this GameFi is tied to the blockchain, the company will need a blockchain developer that knows what they are doing and make sure that the smart contracts that they are implementing is perfect from the very start. And then this one is very important, is a game economic expert. So because this GameFi is related highly to finance, right? They really need to consider the effect of economic inflation inside the game. Because when the game becomes extremely inflated, then all the assets that are tied to it, tokens, NFTs, those will lose value quite fast. And that's why this game economic expert will need to really craft and design a sustainable economy within the game. So what can the government gain from this GameFi space? So first one is that GameFi creates full-time and part-time jobs, especially for young people, as the previously mentioned types of jobs, right? And then next, they can generate income from international source. So because all of these GameFis are online games, it is played all around the world, it's international, right? So when a scholar, they generate revenue by playing the game, they can earn an international resource because the money comes from all around the world. And then next is the exposure to community's achievement. So when a project or a scholar, they do well in some kind of project and they get covered by the media, they can represent that country and make their country more known to the whole world. And then next, I want to share a tip with you on how to spot a prospective GameFi projects. So a good GameFi projects, I think, need to have these 4 qualities. First is that they need to have a good team and backer. Second, they need to have a big liquidity. They are able to support a large player base. And third, a sustainable game economy. And fourth, this is a very important one, is that they need to be fun and innovative. Because at the end of the day, this is a game. A game in its core needs to be fun. People play games to have fun, right? So these are 4 important points that need to have to be for a GameFi project to be successful. So first one, good team and backer. So what does it mean to have a good team and backer? What's the list of it? So the first one is a blockchain network. So the project, they need to choose a blockchain network that can be advantageous for them. For example, nowadays there are a lot of game projects that use BSC, Binance Smart Chain Networks, because 1, their transaction speed is fast, 2, they have low gas fees, relatively low gas fees, and then 3 is that they have a large user base. So when they want to attract players into their developers, a large user base is important because they can market it and a lot of people will see it, right? And the next one is incubator. So they need to have a good incubator that can guide them. They can guide them as the development of the project begins and continues. So it can make a good step and direction into making a good project. And the third one is VCs. They want to have a VCs that are concerned and have the interest of the future of the projects, not just a VCs that are interested in short-term profit and just dump their position when the token launches. And the fourth one is they need to be listed in large exchanges. So in this case, in the BSC, for the checks, it's like Binance, and the DEX is like PancakeSwap. Those have a large user base and also easy access, because the players that are playing these games, right, they need to be able to easily transact their assets into other players' assets or into real-world money. And that's where these large exchanges comes from. And that's what's important about it. And the fifth one is the KOLs. They need to have a good marketing, and it's usually done through KOLs, right? So that they can reach much larger audience, they can make their game known to a lot more people so that they can grow their daily users. And the last one is that they need to have an experience in gaming and blockchain industry. Because if they have the experience, especially in gaming traditional industries, they can know which methods are right, which methods are wrong, and which methods are able to boost their performance, right? And then next one is sustainable game economy. So first is that the game project need to have a good mint to burn ratio, especially in their tokens, which means they also need to have a big liquidity. Why is that? It's because of inflations. So when the token is over minted and a lot of the tokens of this GameFi project don't have a maximum supply cap limit, then the tokens will flood out the market and the token price will go down exponentially fast, right? So that's why they need to have a good mint to burn ratio, especially if more tokens are being burned than minted, then the token price will go up very nicely. And also, if they have a big liquidity in their project, they are more immune to the movement of the market, right? And next one is the usage of assets. So they need to have a clear usage of their assets, which is the NFTs and tokens, because when these assets, they don't have real usage in-game, it makes them essentially worthless. And the players will lose their interest in playing the games and use these assets if those assets don't have any use. That's why the game developers need to have a clear design of the usage of these NFTs and tokens. And the third one, this is the most important one, I think, is that there need to be players instead of just farmers inside the game. So imagine this. All the people in a country, they are all planting rice. They are all harvesting rice. But no one in that country wants to consume that rice. All they want is to sell that rice, right? They're all farmers. They just want to sell those rice. So you can imagine the price of rice will definitely go down, right? So that's why we need the consumers, the players, to consume the products that these farmers create. So to counter the inflations, to make a sustainable economy into the game. And the last one is they need to have a good token price, chart token price. This one is more about timing. So most of the GameFi projects out there, they have this kind of chart token price to your right. So I like to categorize them into 4 phases. So phases 1 is when at the start of the project. So it is usually when the one that got into the game in the pre-sale, they can make the most money out of flipping their assets, right? And then the next one is phase 2. This may or may not come into the game projects, because phase 2 is when the price of the tokens jump up from the IDO price. And the third one is when inflation comes, right? A lot of people playing, a lot of farmers, less players, everybody is selling, there's huge selling pressure, and the price goes down very quickly. Yeah. And then the fourth one is when many players are quitting the game, and they become lost interest in it, only a few players remain. However, because they still have quite a nice liquidity, the amount of players that are playing it can't really move the market in a volatile way. So at the stage 4, the price remains sideways for a long time. So in my experience, the best way to enter a GameFi project is in phase 1 and phase 4. So in phase 1, you can get a discounted price at pre-sale price, and usually when the game launches, the price will be quite good for those who enters in pre-sale. You can directly use the assets that you buy, or you can flip it for a nice profits early on. And also, you don't want to play at phase 2 and phase 3. Because why? Because your initial calculation of ROI, return on investment, it only works for a short term. So let's say at phase 2, right? You calculate that your ROI when entering the game, it's around 5 months. And next month, the token price goes into phase 3. And the token price gets a minus 30% or 50%. Then suddenly your ROI is 10 months. And the second month, it comes down even more, and your ROI becomes 15 months. So it's very unstable, and all the calculations that you create from the start, all the technical analysis, it all went away. That's where the stage 4 comes in. Because it is sideways for a long time, you can calculate your ROI in a much more safer and stable way. So when you calculate your ROI in 3 or 5 months, it won't usually goes away from those calculations. And the last one is the games need to have fun and it need to be innovative, right? So many successful traditional games counterpart has not yet been imitated in GameFi, right? So let's say a lot of traditional games like Clash Royales and Dota, LOL, those have not been implemented into GameFi. While there's a huge potential of it, if these game developer companies, they use these cheat sheets, right? Using the templates of successful games in traditional ways and implement a GameFi aspect to it, implement a blockchain in a sustainable and fun and meaningful ways, they can really make a huge successful project internationally, because all of these projects have not been implemented in GameFi. We are at the early stage of this space. And next one is that because GameFi, right, they have this finance aspect of it, blockchain aspect of it. There can be more new and innovative gameplays available. Like this one, maybe you have heard of it, it's Step N. So by buying these NFT sneakers and you physically run in the real world every day, whenever a run session ends, you can earn a token that you can sell or use for real world money. So this is unheard of, right, in the traditional gaming space. And I don't know if I should discuss this or not, but as you can see, it's incoming, right? Sex N, sex to earn. So yeah, as it sounds, so you modern human necessity. People will always play game to have fun, to be socially active online, right? That will not go away anytime. People will always play games. And that's why this space, this GameFi, it won't go away. There will always be new projects, new successful projects, new players that are making advantage of this gaming space. And then a bear market is needed to shake off bad projects. Those GameFi projects that have bad economic designs, those DeFi projects that offers huge amount of APR and the staking and unsustainable in these bear markets, those need to be shaken off during this bear market. And it will test the good project into keep building towards the next bull market, so they can prove themselves that they can survive the bear markets and become successful in the bull markets. So in the end, I will just say that we are all gonna make it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. William Atmodiharjo, as the founder of Nusantara Gaming Guild. Next up, a session that we'll be talking about formal crypto education for BNB chain. That will be brought by through online live stream by by the president of Ape Labs. And now, let us give it up to Mr. Chip.
Test, 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 test. Check.
Hello? Hello? Test? Yeah, I can hear you. Wait, yeah. Okay. Can you talk once again? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we will start soon. In 3, 2, 1, and okay. Hello, Mr. Chip.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, fine. Is it noon already there?
Well, it's actually you're speaking to the past right now. It's
Okay.
almost 8 o'clock Friday night on the West Coast.
Okay. Well, okay. So we and I will give you the time to introduce yourself.
Okay, great. And then also, it's showing that the screen share is disabled. So
Okay.
I'll kick
I
that
will.
screen share up whenever you're ready. All right. Wonderful. Thank you. And is that visible?
Yeah, visible.
Recording in
Perfect.
progress.
Great. Well, thank you so much for. Okay, thank you so much for the invite. My name is Chip. Been active in the space for 5 years now. My initial interest and heart was in proof of work coins and mining. I was very active in mining Ether and Monero and contributed to projects along the way. I've been on the ApeSwap team for 13 months now, close to 14 months, which it's really impressive because in the beginning, it was very, very competitive, heated environment, and for us to be here now, it's incredibly proud of it. Along the way, we saw a need for education, and so we decided to roll out Ape Labs. And so that takes a lot of my time now as founder and president and teacher. And so really excited to speak about Ape Labs today. And so I can get started on the presentation now. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Ape Labs and our educational offerings for BNB chain. So a quick introduction to the concept. So Ape Labs provides formal crypto education via professionally designed curriculum, live instruction, group work, and guest speakers. We really try to go out of our way to introduce the space that are qualified to speak on it, obviously. Our labs, our subjects, they include everything DeFi. So, intro to DeFi, farming, lending, borrowing, passive income opportunities, operational security, risk management, fundamental analysis, technical analysis, and we actually just had our second installment of our Oracle's 101 lab, which was taught by a developer advocate from Chainlink. So the concept was commissioned and initially funded by ApeSwap. Working in our community, we saw a lot of sort of desire in need to get up to speed. I mean, it's really hard and really steep learning curve to come into DeFi and come into this space. And so we wanted to create an on-ramp for people. And I have been a teacher since 2007. I first started teaching in Japan back then as an English teacher. And along the way, I've taught every age, every grade, every skill level. And with my experience in crypto, it seemed like a really, really good fit for me to deploy this. Our primary goal is to educate the market and builders on established theory of finance and security. Have to be secure. There's so much risk in this space, and people don't pay a ton of attention to it. And so teaching people about security, teaching people about fundamentals of finance, and giving them systems to be able to approach this market is our ultimate goal. With the way things change and how much goes up and down and interest and all of the different fads and trends, there's no way we can encompass all of that in a curriculum, but we can take established theory of finance, install it, and then approach the markets from sort of an educated position. What really gets us going and what really kind of like sparked the concept was the idea of minting our graduate NFTs on chain. And so students have permanent record. There's no financial aid office that will come through and take away the degree at a later date or refuse to send transcripts. So anybody who completes a scored lab, they receive a unique NFT minted on BNB chain through our partner Babylon's, and then that proves their completion. The little zombie guy on the right, that is our first certification NFT. So 10, I believe it was 10 or 14 in the first class. That represents 8 weeks, over 100 hours of curriculum, attending labs Monday through Friday, doing group work throughout the whole process, learning from guest speakers. And so that achievement was monumental, and we wanted to obviously honor it through this NFT. So we have 3 distinct opportunities to learn crypto. Our certification is our core product, and it's a very intensive 8-week Monday through Friday live in-seat class. We assign our students groups. They have consistent group work assignments and projects. It really takes them out of their comfort zone and kind of challenges preconceived notions. Everyone who's completed the certification has loved the experience. And obviously on the faculty side, we love it, with it being our core product, because spending 8 weeks with students who have an interest in this space and helping them grow and watching it and seeing the tangible progression really is a joy. We have very dedicated flex labs. And so these are 1 to 3 day classes, and they generally have a refined focus. Recently, at the beginning of the month, we had our first 500 level offering, which was organizational theory in decentralized environments. And then we go all the way down the scale to, we did our first short-term speculative class where we offered a degen Seifu. And so these offerings are very, very refined focus, specific sort of messaging on it, and people enjoy them. And it really gives us the opportunity to be flexible with the curriculum, as previously mentioned, when we have guest speakers coming in to teach these. And then our final offering are our seminars. And so this is tailored group content. We just came back from a seminar in the IOTA ecosystem, and we had 160 people attending. I've done 200 in college lectures before, so it was really cool to sniff that within DeFi, the DeFi learning environment, and it was very well received, with even one of the co-founders from IOTA talking about our seminar. So all of our offerings are performed live, and they all have very consistently positive feedback. We've never had anyone walk away from our offerings and say, well, I didn't really learn much, fortunately. And so what we do is we try to fill the knowledge gap in the space. Generally, most people are attracted to crypto for the gains or the returns. And that's totally fine, right? Everybody's here for their own reasons. And if you're here to make money, that's totally fine. But if that's your ultimate goal and you don't understand risk management and you don't understand operational security, you're going to be in kind of a hard time. The new entrants that we see come into the space, they're routinely victimized for many reasons. A lot of attention gets highlighted on rug pulls and scams and very glaring frauds, right? But no one's really looking at Google taking money and posting phishing links or spoofing links or these types of things. So people get victimized in this space for many, many reasons. They leave, they call it a scam, and then they become an antagonist of our space when it doesn't need to be that way. So we're looking out at the landscape and we're like, well, okay, well, how do people actually come into the space? Well, it's mostly through YouTube. Most people go to YouTube and they try to learn themselves, learn at their own pace, or they look for opportunities to learn and earn. And so this is okay, right? But most people don't have this capacity. I mean, they don't have the ability to go to a YouTube channel and figure out all the core tenets of the space, understand the value of decentralization, compare and contrast to traditional financial opportunities. And so it's a really, really big gap, because we're at the forefront of technology and DeFi. And so whatever knowledge I have or you have or any other builder has, this is a competency. Right? This is what kind of distinguishes us. And so there's a lot of hesitancy to share the knowledge of DeFi into a desire to bring everyone up on the same page. And so before Ape Labs, there was no accessible live crypto instruction available. You could go to Stanford or you could go to MIT and pay $40,000, $50,000 a semester and learn blockchain tenets as sort of like a side study. But there was no core offering with live crypto instruction. And so this is what we brought to life. And this is what we consider ourselves sort of as first movers in this regard. And so through our grads, we see very tangible implementations of our curriculum. Our grads go out in space and they manage their risk better. And when we have these huge dumpster fires, like what just happened in the market over the past couple of weeks, well, they're prepared for it and they don't get emotional through these situations, which really helps everybody in the space. And so what was a huge priority for us was accessibility. As previously mentioned, you could go to Stanford or MIT and you could learn about crypto. Is insane. I mean, for someone on the other side of the United States, right? For them to pay $40,000 for a semester, there's no way it's possible. So when we created this concept, accessibility was something we really wanted to prioritize. And so our first lab was on the 4th of October of last year, about to hit our 1-year mark there, which is great. And so we scale our tuition globally, and it's generally at a range of 500 to 1,000, and it depends on their national residence. And we've actually lowered this sort of price range even more than what it was previously with general market conditions, and then also just wanting to provide more value to people in the world through a bear market. Given that we mint our graduate certificates as NFTs, we teach about NFTs, we're firm believers in GameFi and MetaFi and Web3. Well, we were like, hey, let's release an NFT project that serves as tuition. And so if you're holding this NFT, you can just come in and learn all of our labs. And so this is what our LabRat NFT collection is. It's another form of accessible tuition. So students who want to come in and learn, whether it's certification or Flex Labs, all you have to do is stake your LabRat and you come in. And so this collection's available on BNB chain through NFT Key, Collection Capital, and Tofu. So we want to make this accessible. My academic experience is in business and finance. I have, Latin honors and all sorts of accolades to support my profile in that regard. And so we bring modern Western financial academics to the world. And we do it at an incredibly affordable rate. So for our students, they can skip over a lot of the kind of junky hard stuff that comes around with TradFi, and we can just say, okay, this is how it started. This is where we are now. This is where we want to be as a space, and it works really well. And so in less than 1 year, right, about 9 months of our offerings, we've provided over 350 hours of live crypto instruction. And this is across 30 different labs, involving more than 21 guest speakers. And all of it is project and chain agnostic. We don't preference or shill or do anything to support one project over another. It's a very, very key point for our academic integrity to maintain this. We have 34 certified graduates who contribute to 17 different projects across BNB chain, Polygon, Ethereum, and Algorand. So far, we've minted 29 unique graduate NFTs, and anybody can reference these on Babylon's. So when you look at all the different job boards, whether it's Lemon or the new BSC News job board, having recognition for this and getting some sort of like, hey, they have this graduate degree, it's something that we have within our longer term plans because we obviously think it's incredibly valuable to hold one of our graduate NFTs. We have a 7-person faculty. So, while I'm the president and teacher, supported by just amazing, amazing people around me, some of the best in the space. And within our faculty, we actually have 3 of our certified graduates. So, we like to have everybody on the same page. We like for everybody to be familiar with our process, to understand what our offerings are, and what a better source for this than our certified grads. So our fourth certification schedule starts in July 11th, and then we have 1 more of those planned through the end of the year. So all in all, it's been a great ride. It's been incredibly fun. We love where we're going. We love where we're headed. We love what we do. We enjoy it very, very much. And I hope that everyone here enjoyed today's presentation as well. Thank you for having me.
Okay, wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Chip. And your project is very awesome. Can see that your project can produce a very good quality of NFTs. And yeah, we expect that everyone here can check the project. And if you want to join the education and you want to learn more, you can revert to the Ape Labs education. Thank you, Mr. Chip.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I hope everyone has a blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so if you have some question, I think you can send to, wait a minute. Okay, if you have question, later you can send to email and we will display it separately for you. And hopefully this session can bring some insight to all of us. Thank you, Mr. Chip. See you again in the next event.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, and thank you very much once again for Mr. Chip. And now, just a friendly reminder, let us not to forget to put in your question into our Slido template if you have one. So remember, today is the last day, and if you really have one, please just post it up. And if you want to know, the QR code that you can use to post up the question is, and committee, I need your help for the QR code. Okay. So just remember, because this event is just a few hours left, and then okay, so this is it. This is our QR code. What you need to do is just point your camera in the QR code, and then you can just ask a question in here. Because our event is just a few hours away. So please, it is very, very, very limited, and today is our last day. So please don't forget to have one question posted for today. And now, I've got a few questions just now from a participant asking about lunch, and the answer to that is, we will be providing lunch for every participant after this event ends. So remember to attend our lunch session before going back home. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue our online AMA session, which will be talking about the potential of Web 3.0 and Metaverse. That will be brought by the Director of Business Operation BNB Chain. And now, let us welcome Mr. Alvin Khan.
Hi, Mr. Alvin. We haven't live. Don't worry. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, we near the lunch session. So before we got to lunch, we want you to know this incredible person, awesome person. So let's make the screen appear. Can we make, okay. So hi, Mr. Alvin.
Hello, nice to see you all.
Yeah. So Mr. Alvin, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Shoko. So my name is Alvin. I'm based in Singapore. I work for BNB Chain, and right now I am leading the ecosystem growth in the chain.
Okay, wow. So today, Mr. Alvin will present some of the insight about Web3 and Metaverse, so we can learn more about these things from Mr. Alvin. Okay, the time and place, I give it to you.
Thank you. Well, it's a pity I couldn't be there with you all. I think it must be really fun to be in Genting. I also just heard that I am in between you and your lunch, so I probably wouldn't take that long. Make sure that you have a good time there. And also, hi to my colleagues who can see me on there. All right, so today I'm going to talk about potential Web3 and the metaverse. And of course, all of us who are here knows that there is huge potential, right? But how big is that potential? How wide is that potential? I think this is something that I want to talk about. And also versus when we talk about potential, it's also about where we are today, right? Versus where we want to be. So we're going to explore a little bit about the state of where I think we are today in terms of the potential of Web3 and how wide it can be. But the first thing, right, is about what is Web3? What is decentralization? I'm sure all of you have seen this, right? Web 1 is read-only. Web 2 is a lot more interactive and participative, especially with social media. And then Web 3, every time you hear Web 3, it is decentralization. Now, words like read-only or interactive when it comes to Web 1 and Web 2 are very intuitive. But when it comes to decentralization, suddenly you see this very big word that's thrown out there and people don't really understand what it is. And I think that is also one of the reasons why Web3 participation or involvement is lower than what we want it to be, right? And you got to ask yourself, what does decentralization, what does it mean to you, right? I've heard two sides of the coin, right? Take Facebook, for example, right? Some people are saying, right, I don't really care if Facebook is centralized or decentralization. People may not care, right, if their data, their pictures are owned by one company versus them having it, as long as they can connect to people and they can continue to interact with their friends. And then there is another camp that says, what if today, Facebook decides to delete all your photos, right? And then the dark side of social media comes in. But a lot of people may say like, well, I don't think that will happen. It probably will happen only when doomsday comes or when it only happens to one or two people. So there is still this, we're still using very extreme cases to paint the picture of why Web3 is important. Now, when I think about how Web3 or how decentralization is important to me, I kind of think of it in very simple terms, right? For example, I like to use the notion of loyalty points or miles, right? All of us maybe have credit cards. We link it to our air travel miles programs, right? We've taken air flights. And for me, I use Singapore Airlines. I use KrisFlyer miles. Now, there are people who really, a day in and day out, they go and look at what are the best deals, what are the best flights that they can get out of these KrisFlyer miles. There are lazy people like me who, probably only logs in once in a while. Sometimes my KrisFlyer miles actually expires even before I know, it is expiring. So what I would love to do, though, is if I'm able to sell my KrisFlyer miles to others, right, because I don't use it as often. Now, the thing is this, right? Today, most of your loyalty points, most of your KrisFlyer miles, they are centralized, right? It means that whether I'm able to use it or not, the flexibility of using it is not really within my control. It is with the company who has given me the points. Now, I would love a case where, whether it's your banking credit card points or whether it's my KrisFlyer miles, that there are people who use it, that's fine. There are people who use it and they want more, that's great, right? But for people like me, I want to be able to trade it. And the notion of decentralization is this, is that you are trying to put all these points, all these things that you supposedly have into your ownership instead of them. And in that way, you have a lot more flexibility, right? For example, if I book 3 nights in Maldives in December, it happens that, I can't use it because maybe I got COVID or something. Now at this juncture, I have to call the hotel to ask for them to refund. And I'm at the mercy of the hotel to be able to refund me. Versus if I own those 3-night stay as an NFT, I own it, and I can then sell it to someone else who has that, who wants that access because they couldn't book it for December on those 3 nights. Now you start to see that decentralization has a lot of benefits, and the biggest one to me is flexibility. That because you own it, you can do whatever you want with it. Whether you want to keep it, whether you want to gift it to a friend, whether you want to sell it. When you make things like this a lot more tradable, a lot more flexibility comes in for you. And to me, that's what decentralization is. So I would urge all of you to think about what decentralization means to you, right? Then you can tell the story of Web3. So we know, when it comes to Web3, there are a lot of different applications that may come in. I would say the bulk of the activities today are still in DeFi, right? We have seen GameFi come up since last year, August, right? When, Axie Infinity and all these games started to grow up like crazy, I would say. And now they're also kind of crashing in some ways because the tokenomics have not been sustainable. And then we saw later on Metaverse coming up, right? NFTs have been quite a boom over the last, I think, second half of last year to early this year. And we kind of term all these things into a term called MetaFi, right? Which is how do we use, the finances, the financial tools to actually enable all these other applications. But I would say even for MetaFi, like just gaming in Metaverse doesn't cut it because there's so many other applications that can come in. Think about all the lifestyle things that you do, right? Whether it's listening to music, whether it's going to a dance floor, whether it's traveling, or to the more boring, corporate stuff, whether it's legal services, whether it's a logistics supply chain, a lot of these can actually be impacted by Web3. And I'll show some examples later. So the question, though, is, if we look at all the blockchains today, right, the public blockchains, how far are we away from, the promise of decentralization across all these sectors that I talked about, right? Or are we still stuck in, the old days where DeFi, right, is still the main thing? And if DeFi is still the main thing, it means that, we have not really branched out to the other applications. I like to put it this way, right, which is if you look at a country's economy, obviously one key thing you would need to have is banking, right? Because banking and financial services allows other sectors, other industries, players to take loans, to put on credit, to do all these things in order to grow those sectors. So whether it's DeFi or whether it's financial services in a country, when you talk about an economy, the financial services always is an enabler to allow other industries to flourish, right? However, I do feel that in most of the public blockchains today, we're still pretty much stuck in DeFi, which is, it still remains as a building block, but these building blocks need to build the other sectors, right? And so the question here is, if we look at all these L1s, what is the breadth of the decentralized applications in each blockchain, right? I think if you look at, say, if you look at like Phantom, like Ethereum, if you look at a lot of this, I think a lot of them are still pretty much in DeFi. Some of them have branched out to maybe Metaverse and NFTs. For example, like Polygon is a lot on gaming and probably less on DeFi and other stuff. But still, we're looking at 1 or 2 sectors only. So how is it that we can grow to multiple sectors in order to fulfill the promise of decentralization across all the things that we're familiar with? I think we're still quite a while away. I think here we are quite I'm proud to say, I think BNB chain or BSC there, it hasn't been renamed in this website that I got this picture from. So BNB chain is today one of the most diversified blockchains, actually. We have a very strong DeFi, right? Even though TVLs have been dropping over the last 2 to 4 weeks, but I think our market share has been increasing because we have a very solid DeFi infrastructure there. But at the same time, right, we have a gamut of games, which I'm sure LZ has shared with all of you yesterday. We have like Netmarble, some of the top publishers publishing their games on BNB chain. At the same time, we have things like Move to Earn, we have Metaverse concerts. There's a lot of variety of things that you can do on BNB chain today. And that's what we want. We want a holistic experience, not just, financial services. So this is something that I talked about, Metaverse concert, and it's going to go a lot bigger, right? And Quavo is one of the performing artists that did his concert together with Second Life, one of the metaverse providers on BNB chain. I think I have a picture here. So this is how it actually looks. So on the concert day itself, you go into this realm, right? There will be an enlarged figure of him. There would be screens around, and people will be dancing on the dance floors, which is pretty cool. So your ticket is an NFT, right? I have searched in some metaverse concerts, like the dance moves itself could be an NFT as well, which is pretty cool. But why the notion of Web3? Why the notion of metaverse? And the thing is this, right? If you look at the metaverse itself, it provides an interactive feature for people who cannot afford to go to that place for the concert, right? And you're talking about a lot of people, right? Whether it's in Asia, going over the US, and so on. This allows you to be in more interactive spaces with the singer or the performing artist that you like, right? Minus the travel. Now, with regards to NFTs and so on, right? It provides a very interesting use case where, imagine this, right? Say this is a performing artist and you've been to X number of concerts, or we know that you have been, attending the concerts or buying the NFT since the early days. The great thing about blockchain is that it's immutable and it holds the records publicly. So what it means is we have a transparent record of who are the earliest supporters of an artist, right? And if an artist later becomes big, right, they become popular and they decide to say, I want to reward my loyal fans. I want to treat them to an actual concert ticket in the future. Like all this can be done because these are all recorded on the blockchain. Today, can an artist know who are his most loyal fans from the start of the days? You won't really know unless they have deliberately joined like a Telegram group as early supporters. But there's no record of all these things, right, with regards to the activities that they've done. And this, to me, is one of the benefits of blockchain. We have GameFi, right? Lots and lots of different games, whether it's Metaverse, idle RPGs, AAA studios, pet breeding. The key thing is not, of course, the number of games or the type of games. I think the key thing is, what does an NFT do for you, right? Why is Web3 coming into GameFi? And this is one of the biggest disruptions, I feel, to games, which is this. Today, most of the skins, most of the weapons, the characters that you own inside, they are again centralized, right? And using the same example that I talked about when it comes to loyalty points and miles, what if I train my character to level 99, right? And I actually want to stop playing the game and I want to move on to another game. Now, you have put in so much effort to this and you want to be able to trade it, right? You want to be able to sell it. And this is not a new concept, by the way, right? If you look at, say, games like Magic Card the Gathering, actually a lot of collectibles cards, even Pokemon cards, right? The moment you get a very rare card, you want to keep it and you want to sell it later when the price goes up, because you take pride in the stuff that you own in this game. But in the past, right, you're not able to trade it when it comes to computer games. Finally, in the Web2 world, if you own a Magic card, like a physical card, you can actually sell it. But when it comes to the digital world, you realize that all this is centralized. Now, and so if you think about it, what we're doing is we're actually returning the capability that you were able to do in Web2. Just that when the software companies came, they centralized everything and you weren't able to do it. But now the games understand that NFTs are the future and it can return this capability to you as the user, as the gamer, and you hold the rights, you hold the power, right, to the stuff that you own. The key thing, though, for GameFi, as we have learned, right, they rose all the way up from last August to, I think, Jan or Feb this year. And in the latest, last 2 months, I think a lot of GameFi have kind of crashed down to earth. And we wrote this article, I think, at the start of, actually in December last year, right, cautioning against this, which is sustainable GameFi, to play or to earn, right? We hear this term, play to earn, and it's been used so often in every game. Every developer is coming up to launch this kind of play to earn games. But the problem is this: when you have a play to earn game whose tokenomics are purely on playing to earn, what you get is a lot of people coming in not to play for fun, right? They're coming in to mine the game and to earn. What this means is, if you want the game to be sustainable, you are reliant on having more and more and more players coming on board, because then the first NFT they buy or the money that they pump into the game will help to sustain the rewards that are given out to previous users. Now, the moment the growth stagnates, right, we don't even need falling number of users. We just need the number of new users to stagnate. This is when the treasure trove of rewards cannot be distributed enough to the old players. And when they see that their earnings is less, and there's a new GameFi project that comes up, they will sell off everything and jump to the next project. So a key thing to solve for is how do we have sustainable GameFi tokenomics? And I feel that the only way to deal with this is to make sure that, right, you can have some people coming in to play to earn, but I think the majority of them should be here because the game is fun, right? And so what this happens is you're probably not going to see a really good play to earn like in the next half year or so, because good games needs at least 2 years to build, 2 to 4 years to build. Very likely what you're going to see first, right, in the next 6 months or so is maybe some of the really good Web2 games coming into Web3, right, and opening up their NFTs. While we continue to see, there will be some games that have been building for the last 2 or 3 years, and they will be launched on Web3 instead of Web2. So that could happen as well. On BNB chain, I think we have some of these good games, like Era 7, for example, is a trading card game, and they've been building for the last 4 years, right? And so when they made the decision to launch, they decided, hey, it seems like NFT is actually a good case to solve a lot of this gamer problem. Let's launch on Web3, right? So I'm pretty bullish on GameFi. I think there's a real problem to solve here, but we got to take away those opportunistic players, right, and make sure that we have fun to play games on the blockchain. And then we move on, right, to move to earn, dance to earn, cycle to earn. There's so many of these that have come up. And again, the same issue stays, right? Is the tokenomics sustainable? Or is it just relying on more people coming in to cycle, more people coming in to move, and so on? However, this actually is interesting because I feel like it introduces another incentive for people, right? And for example, like I know Stepan as a move to earn app has crashed, but when I asked like friends who were using it and so on, it's interesting because they really started to move, right? They really started to go for runs, which they didn't have to. So there is something in there where it incentivizes people to move, to run, to exercise. But how can we do it sustainably, right? That's something we need to think about. But it's fine because all disruption happens, and there will be many waves of disruption to get the model right. And this is, I think, what blockchain is going through, where there's a lot of goodness coming through, just that the model has not solidified. And then we have metaverses. And metaverses is not a new concept, right? If you've watched Ready Player One, there's so many movies that have talked about it. This was not a term invented in blockchain. It has existed for a while, right? You can see here on the bottom left, this is actually by Improbable Metaverse, one of the best I've seen. And what surprised me is that, you see thousands of people there, and these are real people. It's high fidelity. You could actually hear people talking around you. I think not a lot of companies have got to this stage, but it shows us that this is possible, right? And I think this is like 10,000 people going on a battle against another 10,000 in the metaverse. So it's pretty fun if you look at it. At the same time, you have the pixel metaverses on the top right? It looks really basic. It looks like a game that you play in the 1980s or 1990s. And so the most common question has often been, all right, so which do we fund? Which do we invest in? Which do we talk to? And my answer is always the same. It is not really about the graphics. The graphics are important, yes. But it's as good as saying, let's go to a restaurant. And would you always go for fine dining? No. There are multiple different environments that you want to be in, right? And each environment is interesting. Right, I've been to retro arcade clubs, right, and it's fun, right, even though it's not like a super posh kind of clubbing areas. But why? Why do you like being in such environments? It's because of the interactivity. As long as you can enjoy a good experience, as long as the interaction experience is good, whether it's a pixel metaverse or whether it's a high fidelity, high graphics kind of environment, you're going to enjoy it nonetheless. So metaverse is going to be big. We're going to see a gamut of different types of metaverses, as you can see here on 2 different spectrums. And NFTs allow you to own that character, own the things that you have in that virtual world. And what's more important is you're going to have multiple metaverses, right? So the ability to own is very important. Today, say if you want to port over your pictures from Facebook, right, and your connections on Facebook over to a new Facebook, for example, that is not possible because it's centralized, right? And what happens here is with multiple metaverses, I think there will come a time where it's all interoperable. And so you can get your character, your belongings, everything and kind of move it to another metaverse, and that's fine, right? And that is why NFTs and Web3 is so important. The ownership gives you a lot more flexibility. In fact, I would say we should talk more about flexibility of ownership rather than decentralization. Now, this is correct, one of the music apps on BNB chain, right? Another use case of Web3 that showcases the potential. And this one is interesting. You can think of it as crowdfunding, right? So today, a lot of early singers, early artists, they're just starting out. They don't have a lot of fans. They need just like a few $1,000s to get them started, right? To do some campaigns and get people to listen to their streaming, whether it's on Spotify, YouTube, and so on. Now, they don't have the big budgets. They need to raise funds. But they want a place where their fans, where people can get to know them and fund their career early in their career stage. And this is what Corite tends to do, right? So it is a crowdfunding place where it allows fans to power these artists by, investing in these artists' campaigns and in turn getting an NFT, right? And this NFT would then give them their streaming rights, streaming revenue, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube. Part of that streaming revenue for that artist will come back to the fans that powered this because they own the NFT. And so this NFT becomes like an entitlement, right? But also a record of their loyalty and their support for these artists in the early days. And then, right, when we have this foundation, a lot of interesting things can happen, right? Like I said, an artist can decide to reward loyal fans, right, from the start of their days. And that is possible because this is now transparent, this is now recorded on the blockchain. And also, you can say that, I want my streaming revenue to be, given to who have supported me in the early days. That's also possible because you have this NFT. So with regards to Web3 and music, I think we're going to see a lot of artists, right, really having the ability or the power to be able to interact with the fans in such a way where the fans now can power their artists in their careers, and the artists now have the ability to give back accordingly because of the public records. And this is huge. Of course, there's still many legalities and challenges in this industry. For example, owning the NFT, does it give legal rights, right, to the streaming revenue? So this is where legality and how NFTs versus the legalities of the streaming revenue, does it really tie in together? All these things have to be sorted out. And then we have sports, right? And lots of sports. If you see, whether it's like FTX or the rest, like a lot of sports sponsorships have happened in the last half year or so, right? I think Algorand sponsored FIFA, right? You may have seen like Cristiano Ronaldo doing something with Binance as well. Live sports is going to be huge because they have millions and millions of fans, and we want to bring them into Web3, right? But question again is why Web3? So I always ask this question when I talk to a project first, right? Which is, why do you need to be on Web3? Now, not all businesses needs to be decentralized. Not all businesses needs NFT and Web3, right? But I think there's a huge thing that we can do for sports, right? And this is Wingcast, right? And a very interesting one where they have live streaming of sports events, and they want people to be able to own the moment, right? So in a case, you can imagine, I'm not too familiar with baseball. I'm going to use a soccer example. Imagine like this is the finals of the World. Allows you to bid for an NFT to be able to own that moment. And so what's going to happen in the next 10 or 20 seconds, right, is going to decide the fate of who's going to win it. And you have the ability to own that moment through an NFT. Right, which is huge because, again, if you do it through a centralized way, you're going to own that moment, but only for one company. When the company goes down, acquired, or they disband that product, you're not going to own that moment anymore. And this is what NFTs are important for, because you literally own it. You have the flexibility of putting it anywhere you want. And we talked about World Cup Fever. We have quite a number of protocols. This one is Top Goal that is on BNB chain. And all of them, have kind of, started signing up these soccer players, right? Whether it's Alessandro Del Piero, Fernando Torres, they're all starting to come onto Web3. And this is important to note because it's not just us trying to promote Web3. There must be a reason why many of these stars, including Cristiano Ronaldo, is starting to release their NFTs, right? I mean, to be honest, like maybe some people may say it's for monetary reasons, but these people have a lot more reputation at stake, right? There is something in the NFTs, and that is the ability to interact with more people than they could before, that is driving them onto Web3. So I spoke a lot about different applications of Web3, but one key thing that I always want to remind people is, if you think of all the industries that are existing today, right, in the world, in the like world's economy, you have oil and gas, you have industrial, you have consumer goods, you have healthcare, services, logistics. There's so many different sectors out there. And most of the time when we talk about Web3 today, we're still pretty much stuck in DeFi, GameFi, and the metaverse. But there is so many, like such a huge spectrum of industries out there that Web3 can actually disrupt, right? So the question is, what about the other industries that we need to do? For example, take the idea of supply chain. I think supply chain is ripe for disruption by Web3. Why? When you eat the steak that you have, right? Or, when you get the luxury bag that you have, you want to know where it's come from, right? And today you really have to trust the company that you bought from, right? Who's telling you, right, this came from the farm in this country, then it went through a sustainable process and so on. But none of this is actually publicly and transparently recorded, right? And people, we know in today's time, people are becoming more health conscious, and they're also becoming more sustainable conscious. They want to know exactly where this came from through every stage of the supply chain. And I know there are already a few companies that are acting on it, where you basically have a blockchain that tracks all this, because blockchains are immutable, which means if it went from farm A to farm D to manufacturing process C, and then to this distributorship in D, and so on, all the way to U, this whole process is recorded on a blockchain that is immutable, right? And you can actually log into an app to see all this progress as it comes to you. This, to me, is a huge disruption to supply chain, and it can establish a lot of trust between the brand and the consumer. So apart from that, right, so one is about widening the application of Web3. The other one then is we need to keep building and closing the gaps. And what do I mean by this, right? For a metaverse to come in, there's so many layers of infrastructure that needs to happen, right? For supply chain, GameFi, there are a huge spectrum of infrastructural projects that we need to bring in, right? Think about, Apple apps, right? Developing it in the early days versus developing it today is so different. Today, someone can create an app in a matter of days, but in the past, it could take months, right? Why? Because a lot of these infrastructural projects, whether it's like SDKs, toolings, APIs, are already here today. And so we need to keep bringing this into our infrastructural process as well as the map. So we are very early today, I must say. For example, look at DeFi, right? So this is the DeFi landscape. We have marked out certain segments. Now, those with solid line, those are what we consider strengths on BNB chain. Those with dotted lines are what we call opportunities, where we feel there's a lot more. For example, payments, right? We need more and better payments players to come in, because with payments, then it would enable e-commerce players who are not on Web3 today to be able to accept crypto payments, right? And they may not have all the engineers that you want them to have, but if there is easy payment providers where developers on the e-commerce site can just plug in the SDK or API and just use it and just deploy it in a matter of like 2 to 3 days, right? That's what we want, right? But a lot of these payment providers are not here today yet. Same thing for security and insurance. We want more institutional money to come into our DeFi landscape, right? But the institutions, the banks, the hedge funds, the first thing they ask us is their insurance, right? Are we able to insure the hundreds of millions of dollars that we bring in? Because as institutional providers, they come in with big sums, right? And I think not a lot of people are willing to underwrite this risk today. So we need to continue talking to insurance companies to make sure that someone can underwrite that, right? Or when it comes to, say, asset management, because a lot of DeFi players today are still at the asset or maybe aggregator levels. But then what kind of structured products can you build on top of these DeFi protocols? These structured products and asset management are very mature in the banking and Web2 investment space, but still very new in DeFi, and we would like to see a lot more innovation coming in from there. So there's so much more to build. The last one is real world assets, right? I mean, we're starting to see some companies maybe underwriting like NFTs and stuff with real world assets like property or with gems, for example. But those are very far and few in between. Those are more like exceptions today. How do we make that into a more common thing? There's so much for us to build. All right, and then we talk about the metaverse, right? And this is not by me. This is by a guy called John Radoff, right? When he talked about building the metaverse, there are actually 7 layers of the metaverse. You'll be more familiar with the top ones, right? Which is the experience, the application of the metaverse, where you're able to go in the metaverse, you can buy things, you can sell things, you can flip things or shop. Right? Imagine a case where you go into metaverse, you look at an art that you like, and you can just click on it and buy it immediately, right? Rather than being redirected into a separate site to buy it. So those are the experiences. But if you go to the core of it, right, you'll start seeing like 5G or even 6G Wi-Fi, which may not be even here yet for most of the countries. And then you talk about wearables, right? Whether it's your headsets, your smart glasses, all the way to edge computing, 3D engines. There's so much that needs to happen, right, for this to come true. And then we talk about like MetaFi investments. This is our strategy of BNB chain. And then you can see some of the segments that we highlighted, which we need to reach from 2 million daily active users today to 1 billion, right? And there's so many of them, whether it's DAO tools, right, DAO enablers to open NFT wallets. There's quite a number of infrastructure when it comes to NFT, DeFi, GameFi, and all those applications we haven't spoke about. We need to start building the infrastructure to invite and welcome these different applications to come in, right? And then finally, when we talk about infrastructure, it's also about the architecture of the chains to be able to support that. I think someone mentioned this before, which is if you take a really good game like Call of Duty, and you make it 100% on-chain in terms of the activities and transactions, no blockchains today can support that, right? I think most EVM chains today can support up to maybe 300, 400 TPS. So how do we make sure that the blockchains today can support the kind of high scalability, high usage kind of activities and transactions? And this is what we have in mind, right, for BNB chain, which is since the start of the year, we've been announcing our plans and we're going to go in this direction, where we now have, apart from the BNB smart chain that you're familiar with, now we also have the BNB side chains, where each game, each metaverse can start to have their projects built on the side chain so that it is dedicated to them and they don't have to share the bandwidth with the other applications. Because what has happened is we have seen like Solana going down, I think 4 or 5 times this year. We have seen like, blocks rollbacks in Polygon. We have seen a lot of these things happening. BNB chain, I'm proud to say that we are currently the only major L1 blockchain that has no downtime ever since we started almost 2 years ago. But still, there were periods of congestion. I think the last time we had this was last year in November, when the game spiked all the way up to 1 million daily active users by itself, right? So we want to prevent that. And how do we prevent these kind of congestions? How do we make sure that we are sustainable and operational? Side chains will solve it. We have already launched it. And so projects can start building on our side chain. And we're also going to have a ZK rollup solution by the end of the year. Yep. So all in all, we want to build the infrastructure, not just for DeFi and GameFi. We want to build the infrastructure for the whole spectrum of applications, right? From the fun ones, the lifestyle ones, like, move to earn and all this, all the way down to even the corporate ones, right? Whether it's for legal services, for logistics, and so on. And in the end, we want to be building towards 1 billion users on our chain. So thank you for listening. I know I've rambled on for the last 33 minutes, but do follow us on our official channels, especially Twitter and Discord. And I'll open up for questions. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. There's
Yes.
2 questions regarding to today's presentation. The first one is, so far, how the metaverse and GameFi growth, and which category is the biggest?
Sorry, can you repeat it again?
Okay, so far, how the metaverse and GameFi category growth, and which category is the biggest?
Right. GameFi has definitely grown a lot faster than Metaverse. I think if you look at the Metaverse, a lot of people know about like Sandbox, Decentraland, these are the famous ones, right? But I think a lot of it is what you hear in the news, right? If you look at actual numbers of usage, right, you can go to the App Radar and all this to see the number of active users. I think the active users has not been like as great as what people want it to be. For example, like in Decentraland, I think a bulk of those users are still going towards that one game in Decentraland. So are people going in for the metaverse or are people going in for the game, right? So why I feel that's the case is because one, the infrastructure for allowing like seamless integration within the metaverse, I think a lot of it is still not ready. If you look at those like high fidelity graphics of metaverse, like, wow, it looks so great, but a lot of them are still CGU today. It's not like actual. Whereas for games, it's easier to start with, and a lot of people have come up with it. However, I must say that the GameFi tokenomics that we've seen today is still not sustainable. So it's still going to be a long road towards what is sustainable GameFi.
Okay. Thank you. And the second question is, DeFi have a big ecosystem right now. So how the security issue being solved by BNB chain this day?
It's a great question. Nobody likes to get rugged, right? Now there are multiple. It's not an easy topic, right? So there are multiple things that we need to look at, right? I think it starts from education. A lot of users today, right, when they do the checks, do they do the checks? I think that's the first thing, right? So very easy, right? You can go to the Discord channel, see who's talking. Does it look like it's botted? Do they have a lot of users? Are people talking about it? So a lot of users, they need to do these basic checks, right? Or even today, there are quite a number of sites, right? Like Go Plus, for example, or even Certic, where you can check for the security audits of these decentralized projects. Or you can even key in the smart contract, right, for that project and see if this is safe or not, right? Because then the security companies will go through the smart contract and tell you, all right, maybe it has a backdoor security issue. Maybe it doesn't allow people to sell, which has happened, right? People buy these tokens and they're not able to sell. The basic checks needs to be there. So the users need to be educated. And a lot of them, I must say, maybe they even know it, but they still try to take a bet, right? And something happens later, they regret it. So we must start from that layer. Now, apart from that, though, we are also starting to invest a lot in like security APIs, right? To make sure that, all right, we can easily plug in like the hot smart contracts that are coming up, plug them into these APIs, and try to understand which smart contracts are actually not safe, and then proactively warn users. So that's what we can do. But ultimately, still, blockchains are permissionless in most times. So in that case, then what we can do is to warn people and warn the projects. But whether the users still...
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. So if you guys have a question, you can send it to our committee, and I will forward to Mr. Alvin, and we will answer the question through your email. Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. I hope this moment is very good for all of us, and the insight also can make us know a lot about the BNB chain ecosystem. Okay, see you on another event, Mr. Alvin, and goodbye. And can you say goodbye to everyone here?
Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy your stay in Genting. See you all.
Okay,
bye.
Thank you. See you all.
Such a great session. Thank you once again to Mr. Alvin Khan. By the way, please remember to stay until the lucky draw session because you might be the one that win the prize. And now it is time to have a short coffee break for 15 minutes, which you can enjoy it in front of this room. And please, once again, remember to see our countdown from 15 minutes in our big screen here. And please come back in time. So that's all. Thank you and enjoy the coffee break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, from your coffee break session. I really hope that all of you enjoyed it. Coming up next, a session that we'll be talking about Bridging Borders, Asia Blockchain Association, that's going to be brought by the Interim Director of Secretariat Office Asia Blockchain Association, Miss Wendy Vanessa Hugh. Thank you.
Thank you, Aldo. Thank you, thank you. All right, so thank you so much, and I think there's a wrong typo error over here. Yes, basically, actually, what you are seeing on the screen right here is actually the previous organization that I was with, which is called Blockchain Association Singapore. But right here for today, I'm actually here to share with you about Asia Blockchain Association, okay? So meanwhile, once again, my name is Wendy, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share about the company itself, and at the same time, how ABA, in short, which is Asia Blockchain Association, can help bridge connection and bridges across Asia. So yes, we're talking about bridging borders, and borders nowadays are actually getting pretty close, as you can see right here on the screen itself. We have a lot of cities, right? We have like the Twin Towers, we have the Paris Towers, and even for the Singapore Eyes and all that, plus also the Singapore Flyers that is actually symbolized here. And what happened here is basically we're talking about this thing, how bridges and borders can be bridged together, where we are connecting Asia across together. So just a quick one to introduce about myself. So my name is Wendy here, and I've been in the blockchain space for quite some time. I would say more in a part-time basis, because being a consultant and trainer, usually most of the time we actually do work on multiple projects. And some of the projects that I've helmed previously was actually helping the one-year contract that is being won by the company itself, where we bring a lot of people's educations and including corporations and all that across Singapore and of course Korea, where we actually run the immersion program in the blockchain space. And secondly, what I've done also previously is actually the festival. So we organize like quite big festivals in Korea and of course in other cities like China and all that as well. And last but not least, more importantly, right, is actually back in 2019 where we actually run this program called the Tech Adoption Program, which is actually one of the first project ever done by the government of Singapore to actually run this thing called smart contract. And the smart contract actually way ahead as well, where the government also implemented this thing called the Pebble framework, which is actually the e-invoicing that is hailed from Europe itself and is a European Union kind of framework that is actually championed by Singapore government, and right now is already across Asia Pacific as well. Okay, so with that, enough about myself, but right now I would like to bring you to the next topic about ABA. So ABA itself is quite a unique one. We all know that there's a lot of association across all over the world and all that, but in Europe itself, we do have this thing called the European Blockchain Association that is very similar to us. They are also on a DAO format. And for us as well, right here at ABA, in short, we are actually the first DAO organization right here in Asia. And what we do right here is really to look into this thing called the 3C, where we do the create, connect, and collaborate together. So the 3C, what does it mean? So the first C is basically create, where we look into how we can help existing company who are in either Web 2 or even Web 1, some of them are Web 0.0, right? To actually deep dive into this thing called Web 3. Because Web 3 is actually a pretty advanced item, because there are many areas that we're looking at, including your things like Web 3.0, NFT, GameFi, SocialFi, even your AR, VR, that's coming alive in the metaverse space. And secondly, we do this thing called connect. So if you realize, right, pre-COVID, we have a lot of organization. Not only we talk about things like association, even for organization as well, every single local office are pretty much localized. They either talk to their other cities, like for example, in Malaysia right here, they have their KL office, maybe Johor office, Penang office and all that. And most of the time, the communications are pretty much one way, right, and top down. But post-COVID world, what you notice is a lot of people actually do collaborative manner. Because right now, your boss from US can just call you next day and says that, hey, Wendy, let's get on this, and all that. Because this is due to the so-called collaborative work manner that is happening. And meanwhile, at the same time, is also another thing that is transforming in this world where we are actually working on a hybrid format. So hybrid is actually something that is really changing the whole world, especially during the COVID period, where everyone has to be locked down at home, and at the same time looking into some of the new ways that we can actually change our work habits and stuff. So with that right here, for the second C that we have right here for Connect, we are slightly a little bit different because we are called Asia Blockchain Association. So basically, we have so-called chapters and nodes all across Asia itself. So of course, for the setup right here for ABA is at Singapore. So of course, we started from our journey from Singapore, and we're actually eyeing across Asia, plus Pacific, which is actually New Zealand, and of course Australia. So that's why some of you might have seen our advisor, which is actually from New Zealand itself, and he's currently actually also assisting ABA to actually be going abroad, and of course to root sprout all across Asia, and of course at the same time we look into the last portion, collaborate, where we basically actually deep dive into assisting projects to run things together. So one of the things that a lot of people actually have issue is, because I do speak to a lot of unicorns and a lot of tech projects and even for companies and all that, one of the main problem that they have is like, when I come to Asia, where should I go? Is it Singapore? Which regulation is actually better? Which city is better? And stuff like that. And some people even thought that some certain cities are part of another country, which is pretty hilarious, but that is actually the true fact because they are based in like Australia or even something like Europe and US or even for MENA, and they don't really understand Asia quite well. Although MENA somehow for Dubai is part of Asia, but most of the time they say that they are MENA, right? Okay, so with that over here, we do deep dive and hold hands together with all our members to actually look into joint collaboration project through this thing called the ecosystem partners itself, okay? So with that, we talk about the metaverse, which is actually one of our main pillar. And the two second pillars are actually the digital asset, where we look into things like the DeFi, CBDC, which is actually required by every single banks across the whole world, because that is actually a very important thing that is started from US, where every single country needs to have its own centralized bank digital currency itself, okay? And at the same time, more on the things like your custodian, asset tokenization, and even for your new banks, and like Singapore, currently we already have 4 digital banks approved and 2 has started. And just nice, 2 of them are right here in our association as well, which is from Alibaba and of course our Greenland itself, okay? So last but not least is crypto philanthropy, which is actually pretty unheard of. But if you look at the current world, we are talking about carbon credit exchanges. We're talking about things like the ESG, and also at the same time like charity and how can you do pledging and stuff like that. So these are the 3 areas that we are looking into on how we can root sprout and assist Asia to grow right here as the world's digital hub in Singapore and of course Asia. So just wanted to share with you all, right? Actually, ABA started really not too long. It was just like last month itself, okay? And today is a very, very special day that I wanted to so-called commemorate and also celebrate as well, which I will share later on, okay? But let's talk about June 1st, which is this month. What have happened right here on June itself, right? Basically, ABA was being announced on 2nd of June itself by one of our founding committee, which is Mr. Mike Chiam. So he was actually presenting at the Blockchain Fest to share about what ABA is all about and the vision, mission, and roadmap about ABA. And secondly, on the next week itself, on 9 June itself, we immediately announced a collaboration with National University of Singapore, which is the government first university in Singapore itself. And we actually joint collaborated for this thing called the Singapore Blockchain Innovation Program. And through the off-chain event that we had about 100 over people attending for this social event. And it was actually sponsored by ChainUp, which is actually one of the investees of Huobi Global. Yeah, the founder itself. So what is SBIP, which is the Singapore Blockchain Innovation Program, all about? It's actually a nationwide collaboration among the governments itself. So all this logo that you're seeing right here for the top part, right, are all governments. And below here for NRF is basically the National Research Foundation, which is actually held and owned by the Prime Minister Office of Singapore. And also at the same time, all 4 other logos over here are actually universities that is actually either owned or recognized by the Republic of Singapore's government itself, okay? So with that, this program itself is actually steered by a lot of very, very high-profile personnel, like including one of the people, which is actually the Chief FinTech Officer's Assistant, and also NRF, and of course, Enterprise Singapore and all the government bodies. And of course, with all the co-investigators, which is all the government people as well, the so-called IHL, or called the Institute of Higher Learning itself, okay? And one or two of them, I will not disclose who they are actually gonna be part of ABA's advisory panel also. Okay, so that was actually the two things that we have done for early part of the June, which is the first week. So the second week of June itself, right, we basically had a so-called interview by Straits Time. So just in case for those who are, overseas and all that, you might not have heard about it, but this is the one and only newspaper that is owned by the one and only media house, which is called Singapore Press Holding. And they actually interview our views. So after consultation with members of the association, what we have done is actually we contributed quite a fair bit of information towards the recent job cut led by the crypto volatility and of course the lack of funding itself. And up next, what happened is we basically facilitated the Mercedes-Benz Blockchain Day, where we have this woman empowerment caption. So we basically have 5 ladies over here. One of it is actually Arabella. So Arabella basically held and runs the Munich Re. So just now, actually, I heard from the BNB chain personnel was saying about the refinancing and all that kind of thing. And in the whole world of finance and of course insurance itself, right? There's a lot of insurance company, but there are less than 10 reinsurance company. And Munich is actually one of the first ever reinsurance company that actually looks into the DeFi space, NFT space and all that. And Arabella is actually an ambassador of ABA. Yeah, so of course, myself at the second one, yeah, and third is actually Amber Group, which is actually backed by the government's Solidity Fund of Singapore. And of course, they are being a Hong Kong company, they are currently a unicorn as well that worth more than $1 billion. And XT.com, an exchange that's trying to get licensing in Singapore. And of course, TechStorm, we actually own a lot of viewers across the whole world. I think it's about few billions people viewership as well. Okay, so that is actually what we had on the second and the third week. And just this week itself is a very busy one because I actually just came and reached Genting this morning. Yeah, literally 5+ this morning because the past 2 days we've been busy with Crypto Expo in Singapore. And basically what happened was we actually collaborated with the organizer itself, where we facilitated 11 panel speakers. And on top of that, what we had is actually also a booth, a 50 square meter booth sponsored by Bybit. And we were there interacting with people and stuff like that. So all these are actually all available on our LinkedIn, so you can feel free to always go in and check it out as well, okay? And of course, right here also, what you have seen right here is actually an interview session. That interview session is actually held and run by Jingshi Caijing, which is one of the very big Chinese media companies, English division. So we had an interview with our founding committee and all that as well. And last but not least, of course, today and yesterday, okay, we are right here at ASEAN conference where we are trying to see how we can do collaboration, bilateral, tripartite, or whichever, with Singapore, Malaysia, and of course, Indonesia. Okay, so I think that's definitely possible because maybe let me share a little bit about my background. I was born in Malaysia actually, so I was from a very small city called Ipoh, and after my so-called primary and secondary education, I actually did my year 12 in Australia, and I did my universities in China. And after that, I've been in Singapore. My first company was actually SPH that you saw just now, the Singapore Press Holding. And since then, I've been traveling around for different projects, postings and all that, and been in Singapore for more than about 16 years right now. So what I've seen so far, right, is have not set up a board. We have not have resolution yet because we are looking into how we can create a collaborative world right here. At least we start from Southeast Asia and across to Asia. Next, we already have 2 subcommittee launched, and both subcommittees for education is helmed by the government and us. Philanthropy, same as well, is helmed by this company called NVPC, National Volunteerism Philanthropy Center. NVPC that is by the government of Singapore together with us as well. And we have about 6 countries representatives that mentioned that they are interested to set up ABA in their local chapters and all that as well. And also we have some invitation to collaborate with major banks, corporation and association globally already. And we have secured a few government bodies, including minister level, as our patron. Okay, so and one of them is actually talking about green bond that just recently announced in Singapore. So that personnel has agreed to be our patron also. Okay, yeah. So we announced that officially, not in writing, down the road where everything is signed, okay? So in Singapore, everything is black and white, okay? All right. So with that, how should we actually really build bridges across Asia plus Pacific then? So we talk about things like collaboration and all that. So how did this whole concept started, right? It's really because of this platform called Off-Chain. So in case you have not heard about Off-Chain, Off-Chain actually started back in 2017 in US. So it actually started from a group of people sitting down, really drinking, chit-chatting. You know, crypto native, right? We like to drink, chat, you know, and all that. So it was started from a very social setting that people wants to come together, and ended up actually in less than 3 years itself, right, Off-Chain actually have a total of 51 chapters globally already, and at the same time, 1 million over nodes globally as well. So these are all the cities that you can see by Off-Chain. So how do we have the concept of ABA is also because two of our co-founders, and of course, I would say more to the founding committees and members of ABA are actually co-founders of Off-Chain. That is why our concept of things are pretty much similar, but Off-Chain basically look into more social setting. ABA looks into really a collaborative item and an intergovernment item as well. So we are actually a little bit different, where we look into how we can collaborate and really implement rules, regulation, or even we come up with our own methodology to implement stuff. So with that, just a quick one to share about the roadmap of ABA itself. So now we are on June. Yeah, June, July itself, we are still on the Singapore headquarter founding stage. And we are looking into founding members recruitment. So every one of you right here, if you are keen, feel free to. We are not here to kill anyone. We are here to really collaborate, okay? And in fact, just to disclose some of the items to you guys as well. So basically, even in Singapore, we do have people from other associations that is coming to our end as well. And they still sit on two associations, okay? Because what we promote is really create, connect, and collaborate, okay? So yes, ecosystem partner onboarding, that's actually something that we really do, and we wanted to so-called champion as well, the collaborative manner that we work together with our companies. And for August and September, that's going to be the time that we're going to implement the board election. So they're going to be a very stringent selection process and all that. So feel free to nominate if you still want to. And of course, setting up of the Singapore headquarter. And for 30th September to 2nd October, right, is a very important date because that is actually the time that we are having our launch event, which is going to be graced by multiple governmental people. I will not name who they are yet. Some of them has confirmed, some of them has not. But at the same time, it's going to be also our own flagship event, which is called Asia Metaverse Festival. It's in conjunction with Token 24/9 and of course, Grand Prix itself, which is F1, Formula 1. And for October to November, that's actually going to be our chapter expansion. We're going to be confirming some of the chapters, and we're going to announce them, like maybe in Singapore, then in Malaysia, there will be like Kuala Lumpur or even from Penang, and multiple different places, okay? And of course, Asia Pacific exploration, that's going to be our, part of the job scope as well. And for December itself, what we're going to look into is actually the formation of it in Southeast Asia. And we're going to have a Christmas campaign, overseas learning campaign, because we truly believe education is the key. So I have been in the education space for very long, and I truly believe that education is the way of empowerment. And in adult learning, we are talking about lifelong learning. Okay? So with that, last but not least, on January to March, which is 2022, is actually our another signature event that we are looking into, which is called the Asia Blockchain Forum, or in short, ABF. So do join us if you'd like to collaborate with us. And of course, besides our own flagship event, we do have a lot of collaborative projects. And in fact, next month, we already have about 7 collaboration events like right now, this type, okay? So feel free to approach us as and when you would like to collaborate with us. Okay, so last but not least as well, I would like to also share how decentralized autonomous organization in the space of non-governmental organization, NGO, can look like. So with that, usually there's always a centralized party, centralized body. So from there on, we will actually be having multiple different verticals, and all these verticals are running concurrently with different cities and countries. So let's say, for an example, if you're coming into Asia, you wanted to start something, right? Usually people will always say that join association, but which one to join? the Singapore one, the Malaysia one, Indonesia one, and in different cities, there's so many of them. So where do you go, right? What we are trying to do here is we usually try not to refer out externally. So usually, example, back then in my old organization, okay, if someone tells me that, Wendy, I would like to look into expansion to Australia and New Zealand, you know what I do? I would say that, yeah, sure, let me connect you to the CEO of Blockchain New Zealand. Let me connect you to the MD of Blockchain Australia. That's what I'm going to do, and that's it, full stop, bye-bye. But right here, what we try to do is basically, Wendy, can you connect me to people from Malaysia? Yes, I will connect you to ABA Malaysia. So that's the main difference that we are trying to do right here, because every single city is going to have their own so-called structure itself, where ABA HQ, which is Singapore, is going to help and manage the entire ecosystem. So with that, yes, to end off, this is all the flags of Asia. And of course, yeah, people say that MENA is not part of it. Okay, but anyway, let's not talk about politics here. But what we're going to do right here is, yes, we are all connected because we are Asia itself, okay? So as Asians, I think we do know about Asia best. And of course, this is not an Asian organization. It's about how we can actually assist people, especially those who are interested in Web3, to expand and to grow right here in Asia itself, okay? So, of course, the Metaverse Festival that we talk about is our signature program. If you do like to collaborate with us, please let us know early, because slots are pretty much limited, because we already have a so-called official tie-up with F1. As you know, we have like Bybits and all that. They have sponsored like 300 million for Red Bull and F1. So there are quite a fair bit of things running on the week itself. Do let us know early if you'd like to join us. Okay, so this is my last slide. It comes to the last slide itself. Okay, so do join us at our linking page, and you can just scan over here and you can immediately join in. Else, if not, you can always search for Asia Blockchain Association on LinkedIn, and feel free to follow us, okay? And over here, that's the interest form. If you still think that you would like to join us as a member, ecosystem partner, or if not, collaborators, or else you would like to nominate yourself or nominate someone as a panel of advisor, or open up your own chapter right here in your own country, feel free to connect with us. So with that, if there's no other things, and I'm done with the slide, thank you so much. I'm Wendy here, signing off.
Such an incredible sharing session. Thank you very much, Mrs. Wendy Vanessa Yu, as the Interim Director of Secretariat Office, Asia Blockchain Association. And now, we have arrived at the end of our session. But in this opportunity, we would like to thank all of our supporting partners once again. And first of all, for our main sponsors, we have SANGKARA MISA. For our platinum sponsors, we have ARC36. For our gold sponsors, we have Apedi, Pamor Studio, UpDefi, Mars Ecosystem, Bad Fury, Evo Surfers. And for our silver sponsors, we have BIMB, Bantaya Hall, Batik Semar, NFT, Batik Indonesia, SANGKARA NFT. And for our event partners, we have Blocklime, Access Blockchain Association, and BIMB. For our featured participants, we have Mars Ecosystem, Fyro, NodeReal, Pentas.io, MX Global, and Ape Labs. And for our media partners, we have Yahoo Finance, CoinGosh, BabeNews.online, FutureCoin.id, TribuneNews.com, TheTick.com, BSC News, Tech Telegraph, Compass, Festers Holdings LLC, UW, Nasdaq, The News Press All Area Stars, AP Associated Press, Sina.com.cn, AntaraNews.com, MarketWatch, Fox 59, Bloomberg News, wartaekonomi.co.id, republika.co.id, Liputan 6, Media Indonesia, Godzilla BTC, CryptoGain, Mobila, suaramerdeka.com, ST, sinarharian.com.my, News24, Cafe Bitcoin, Digital Journal, Blocklime. Last but not least, we have Access Blockchain Association. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say thank you for all of you that are still staying here. And as what I have promised yesterday, we are going to grant your lucky draw ticket pass, which the price is, there's 3 NFT and there's 2 grand prize. And here we go. Now we're going right into our lucky draw session. So I would like to remind our committee to get ready for this. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Oh, you don't wanna, huh? Are you guys ready? Okay, so let's go. So committee ready? Hey, okay. By the way, committee, have you put in my name here? Yeah, no, okay then. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment of truth. Let us see. Congratulations to Mr. William Suryajaya Sugia, Mr. Muhammad Iqbal bin Amir Ali, Ngoli Wei, Wen Yu, and Muhammad DW. Let us give a round of applause for all of our amazing participants. And for the prize, you can claim it in our registration desk after our event ends. And here's a short important briefing for tomorrow. For all of our guests, VIP and speakers that wanted to join our transport, tomorrow we will be starting our trip from Grand Ion Dalaman, and then we're going to Awana, and next we're going to KLCC Kuala Lumpur. For the trip itself, we'll be starting from 8:30 in the morning, and it is limited to 25 guests. And for all of our guests, VIP and speakers that wanted to join our transport, you can kindly register yourself on our registration desk in front of this room. And now, of course, I can hear some of your stomach is starting growling, which surely, as I mentioned before, we do provide a lunch for all of us. After this event ends, ladies and gentlemen are invited to attend our lunch session at, same as yesterday, which is in the back of this room. And if you can't find the lunchroom, you can always come here and search for me or the committee for direction. And sadly, we are now at the end of our event. It has been an honor, really, to be your MC of this 2 days event. Though we have to part, but we really hope all of you have the most fun in this event. And that's all. Signing off, I am Aldo Bernard, your dearest MC, who would like to say goodbye and see you in our next event. Thank you very much. For all of our guests, participants, VIP guests, please stay in this room for a while.